Hi everyone and welcome to round 3 of a pre-recorded Modern League. I'm playing this Jeskai Resto Kiki Midrange value / combo list that I've been working on in this configuration. Now, for those of you that are interested in the deck and want to know what it might look like as I've learned, I'm still kind of split on Kitchen Finks and Blade Splicer. But I think it's going to look a little bit more like this, and I'll just show you guys. I think that's the wrong thing. I think it's going to be this going forward. The reason for the additional splicers is Kitchen Finks is great. Don't get me wrong, and there's some matchups where you may want them, and maybe it might even be better to do like a 3-1 split between Blade Splicer and Kitchen Finks. But what I've noticed is the deck has... Oh, this click would drop out, by the way, and then this could be... I'm not sure yet. This is just to give us another like flash threat and also to kind of improve our combo matchup by having a click in the main. But the reason for Blade Splicer over Kitchen Finks is what I've noticed is, and again, this depends on the meta, but what I've noticed is that Blade Splicer is probably, outside of some scenarios, Blade Splicer oftentimes seems to be better in this deck than Kitchen Finks. The fact that you have so many ways to blink it, mean that it's just better at clogging up the ground. The reality is that if you're able to copy Blade Splicer, blink it one time, then your Golem tokens... Hold on, I lost my train of thought. Okay, so what I was saying is it's better at clogging up the ground than Kitchen Finks. Yes, you can reset a Kitchen Finks, and yes, it gains you life, and that may be ultimately what we want depending upon the meta. The fact that the golems, A, if you blink Blade Splicer once, they're 6 power, and B, can have first strike, means that sometimes creatures just can't attack into them. And then some of the larger creatures, even if you do double block with the golem tokens without a Blade Splicer, and one of the golems dies, even if they have another large creature that you can block with the golem token, one golem token plus the bolts and the helixes, and this is going to be 4 bolts after Eldrazi rotates out. Anyway, one golem token blocking means that your bolts and your helixes are live to probably kill just about everything. But they're also just a lot better offensively than Kitchen Finks as well. So as far as mucking up the ground and being defensive, while they don't gain you life, I think that they are better than Kitchen Finks at doing that, and they give you a better offensive capability. Additionally, what I've noticed is, you may end up at a point where, like, the Blade Splicers have died, or maybe you've copied one, you've blinked one, you have a Golem token or 2, maybe even if you just have one. But sometimes the Golem tokens may hang around because people feel incentivized to kill the value creature since they know that you're going to be gaining extra value by blinking it. But then any future Blade Splicers that you play just re-enable first strike. So even if you just end up with a Golem token and then at some point play another Blade Splicer, well, now you have 6 first striking power on the battlefield again, and you've played a 2-for-1. So I think that's my reasoning for that. Like I said, going forward, these condemns will be bolts. And I'm not sure what I will put in the side. We really just kind of have to see how the meta shakes out. It could be lots of things. It could be a Spellskite. It could be a Hibernation. I don't know. One interesting thing, Pithing Needle has been just surprisingly useful, I think, in various matches and things like that. So I'm kind of interested in continuing to try this card. Anyway, that being said, let me show you guys round 3. Okay, so this was game 1, round 3 of the pre-recorded league. Looks like I started on the play, and I elected to keep this hand. Always happy to see my opponent not have a play if I'm able to then hold up Mana Leak. Saw no reason to shock at this point. I didn't. I decided not to mana leak the Meddling Mage. It didn't seem like a great target. Plus, I felt like we could always just. It was unlikely he was going to name like Electrolyze, and we can kill it with Electrolyze at some point. So I did shock here. And I decided that the best thing I could probably do is just, even if he has potential like Dispel or Spell Pierce, to just go ahead and try to Electrolyze the Meddling Mage. And then Phantasmal Image won't actually have anything to copy. So our opponent fetched but didn't actually have a play, and Phantasmal Image died. So that was really like kind of like a 3-for-1 there. Still sitting on Mana Leak. At this point, obviously the deck is Bant Company. I decided to go ahead and leak the Courser, primarily because the longer the game goes, the worse leak gets. And I mean, I might as well at this point. Feeling pretty good about having 2 Restoration Angels. And now we're set up to actually play. I'm trying to remember what order I sequence things in. So I played Resto, yeah, and then I went for the Path. I'm not that familiar with these Bant Company lists. I don't know what kind of counter magic they run. That being said, if they played Mana Leak, it might have been better to Path since we had 2 Angels, it probably would have been better to just Path the Knight. That way Mana Leak couldn't counter it, and then if they counter Restoration Angel with a Mana Leak after that, we have another one here. So got some beats in. Yeah. So our opponent played a Reflector Mage. It doesn't really seem particularly good against Restoration Angel, but obviously with the trigger on the stack, I knew I needed to play this one, because if this trigger resolves, then I couldn't flash this Restoration Angel in. And there's another really big Knight, so now we're just... Opponent has 1 card in hand. He can draw 1 here, but this is really good, and we're obviously in a position where we need to try and draw a removal. So I fetched to thin just a little bit. Killed the Gavany straight away. Decided to attack, because obviously our Angel isn't blocking that Knight. Tried to go for block on the Reflector Mage, but the opponent had a Path. There's not much we can do about that. Opponent getting some really good utility out of the lands that draw cards. So we drew two or three lands in a row there, at least 2, and we really needed to draw something besides lands. So I conceded here because there's no point. There's nothing we can do. We have 1 creature. Both of these are lethal. So that's kind of what happened there, and it's surprising because our opponent didn't cast the Company. We even 3-for-1'd him at one point, and we pathed the Knight. He drew 3 Knights, and we drew 1 Path. So we just didn't have a way to get rid of him. See you guys in the next game. Okay, so this was game 2 in round 3 versus Bant Company. Clicked through there quickly. I don't remember what I didn't see what the exact hand was, but I decided to keep this one. Kept Anger on top. Just kind of playing our wall here. It's nice to have a Dispel for potential Collected Company. And I want to say at this point, let's see, yeah, if our opponent fires off a Collected Company, I was actually fine to just Dispel it. And then just anger everything away on the following turn. Obviously, we don't care about having our opponent path our wall, because our wall's already replaced itself by drawing a card, and then it gives us a land. And here I just decided to play the wall. Obviously we can anger at any point and it doesn't kill this. And our opponent can't Collected Company now. And, you know, the wall presents like a sort of roadblock, if you will, to this voice that we're just not super worried about our life total there. Pathed again. Again, this is not really a concern for us. And I think at this point, it seemed like the best thing to do was probably just to anger. And if our opponent like floats mana in response and then casts a company after anger's resolved, we have the Dispel in our hand. I decided to see. I think I'm trying to remember what happened here. Obviously, I could pay for the leak, but I felt like he probably had, if he was leaking anger when we could pay for it, then I was assuming he had another leak, which now that I say that, if that's what I thought, then wasting a Dispel, like if he's just going to leak twice, then it was kind of pointless to play this Dispel. And what I really should have done is, if that's what I thought he was going to do, just paid for it twice and held on, like paid for it once and then let him leak, and then just if I thought he was on 2 leaks, I should have paid for the first leak, let him leak again, and held on to the Dispel. But I just kind of needlessly threw the leak away, so it wasn't really like the best decision-making process on my part. I chose to play a Finks here. And then just to kill the Noble Hierarch. So obviously the voice is getting pretty large. And I think I went for Condemn, feeling like there was a good chance I'd be able to deal with this token. Opponent has no cards in hand. There was definitely a mistake. Like, I should have had a Dispel in my hand. And it may have been it. I kind of waited on that anger for a while. It probably made more sense to just fire it off and get my 2-for-1 rather than wait. Because actually by waiting, I just ended up giving him the opportunity to mana leak it. And normally it is not a... I won't say normally. This is a situation where Revelark is really just a big flyer. I don't have anything to get back out of my graveyard yet. All of my creatures have actually just been exiled. There's no other creatures, though, and my opponent was not in a position to attack into the Revelark with a 4/4. He's going to have to wait until he can put another counter, which gives us another draw step. I just went ahead and fired this off now to draw a card. The opponent chose just to attack with the Elemental, which I believe... well, I don't remember actually what I did. We'll have to see. Okay, so I just took it. And I think... let's see, why did I don't remember why I just took it. I think I felt like I could deal 7 in the air... And I still had 2 blockers for his 2 creatures, and I could actually attack for 6, 10 in the air. So I could potentially have him dead in 2 attacks. I may have been trying to activate 2 colonnades. At which point, let's see, if I had blocked... no, I didn't have enough mana. That gets the most damage in. Not sure what our opponent drew at this point, but he Gavinied again. Opponent was able to gain some life off of our dead creatures and go to 10, but I think I'd already done the math and it didn't matter because I was going to be able to attack for lethal this turn. And he didn't leave a white up either, so he clearly doesn't have a path. Okay, so on to game 3. So obviously our opponent was on the play. I mulliganed that hand. I think it was like Dispel on Lands or something. I kept this one. I chose to just shock with the Steam Vet so that I could potentially Spell Snare something. Like a voice. I wanted to just play the wall there. So I was fine to Spell Snare that. I wasn't too scared at this point of the night because I felt like, alright, well, we can keep it pretty small by making him exile things out of his graveyard. Hold on. Did I miss the land drop there? No, I played an island. Okay. So the thinking here was I'd block, crack the relic, and make the knight too small to actually kill the wall. Things are starting to get a little hairy though. Obviously, he's got 2 knights, and now we don't have a way to keep his graveyard in check. We just have a wall, but the knights got really big really quickly, and I could have spell snared that voice, but it just would have meant giving him a really large token. So I drew a Condemn, but the downside with Condemn against these decks, or with when you have voices, that there's no way to use it on his turn without triggering voice. He played another Collected Company, so obviously just things are kind of going from bad to worse here. And then from worse to worse, kind of forced to block the knights. And there's probably really no outs for me, unless I'm able to draw like another relic that cantrips into an Anger of the Gods. So I cantripped, and there's no way for me to get out of this, so I conceded. Now this is the first time I've played against Bant Company. I think it seems fine. It seems good. I played against an older iteration that was extremely value oriented, and it ran Geist of St. Traft. And I'm trying to remember the most busted things it could do. It definitely had some awesome draws with Eternal. It was Flicker Wisp and Eternal Witness, and you can sometimes like Eternal Witness, get back the Collected Company, use the Flicker Wisp trigger to bounce it to get back something else out of the graveyard. I think this version is a little slanted because of Eldrazi, so it's running like the Reflector Mages and the Phantasmal Images so that they can just continuously keep bouncing the Eldrazi creatures and get their knights probably out of Dismember range, but definitely bigger than a lot of the Eldrazi. And also just present a lot of problematic creatures for those decks to deal with. Anyway, I'm not sure that there's, the second game, I think some mistakes were made, but I managed to eke out a victory. This game, the mistake might have been my keep, but, thinking back, it's not like we really cast too many spells. I guess I won't say that we didn't cast. I just don't think in this game that I really drew what I needed, and my opponent drew really well. He casted Company twice. Anyway, that was round 3, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. I will see you tomorrow for round 4. Thank you for watching. Draw well and smash face.